Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and I have back with me returning guests. I love this woman. She's awesome. She's amazing. She's an author, psychotherapist. I mean, she does so much here in the Evanston community and around the country. I mean, she's a public speaker. She's out there just doing surgery on the souls of so many across the country. She's amazing. Please welcome back Joyce Marter.
Oh my gosh, Malika, thank you so much for the kind introduction. And I have such love for you. So thank you for having me back and addressing this important topic. I really appreciate it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This is a very important topic. you have you have a book, The Financial Mindset Fix. And I don't think people really realize. I think people just think, "Oh, you go to work, you make money." It's as simple as that. But no, there's something to your spiritual well being, your emotional system that really determines how you handle your finances.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So earlier on in my practice, I started noticing that as clients started making progress in therapy or counseling, no matter what they were talking about, whether it was depression, anxiety, substance abuse, relationship issues, as they started to feel better, they started to make more money. They started to get raises and promotions and start their own businesses and start side hustles. And I was like, why in the heck is this happening? Because we're not even talking about money. And I realized it was because we're always working on their underlying self-worth and self-esteem. And when we feel better about ourselves, we put ourselves out in the world with more confidence, more assertiveness. We negotiate, we expand our comfort zone, and we welcome a greater life. So I really noticed that in my practice, became very interested in the psychology of money. And you're right. So money really isn't rocket science when you think about it. When you think about having a budget, you want to earn more than you spend and try to save, but it's our psychology that makes it difficult. It is our deeper thoughts and our emotions and our self-sabotaging behaviors that impact our financial reality. So I love helping people use tools from psychology to welcome a life of greater abundance.
So, Joyce, you just hit on so many points, and I was trying to keep track of them as you were bringing. I was like, "Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point." So, you brought up self-sabotage. So many people can relate to that. Where, oh my gosh, they come into either a windfall of money, or they just land their dream career. Their dreams are coming true, and all the money is starting to follow and funnel in, and then they lose it all. It's
Yes.
they self-sabotage. Like,
Yes.
what is that? Fine, you get everything that you want. It almost makes you afraid to get everything you want for some people.
Right. I really believe that it has to do with your feelings of deservingness. And if you don't really feel deserving on a deeper level, you push the money away. So in my book, I talk about ego, and we all have egos as part of the human condition. And our egos is our mind's understanding of who we are. And so sometimes our egos tell us that we're our job titles or our bank accounts or our debt, when actually it's our essence, our soul, our deeper self that it is innately worthy of prosperity. And so there are two sides of ego. I think a lot of times we think of ego as when people are feeling kind of arrogant or grandiose. And I refer to that side of ego as being a diva. And I know, divas used in different ways, but I think that, divas can be kind of entitled and can overspend. So financially, like it's when it goes to your head and you think, I can live beyond my means, kind of thing. And then on the other side is feeling inadequate, and that's being a doormat. And many of us, I think, especially women, are socialized to have doormat behaviors where we allow our boundaries financially to be compromised and we don't advocate for ourselves in the way that we should. So I'm saying that healthy self-esteem is that middle ground where you're respectful of yourself and others. And we need to have checks and balances. We need to have financial advisors and supporters and consultants to make sure that we're making wise decisions and that we're not spending from an emotional place, because you're right, that happens a lot. We hear about movie stars and sports athletes that come into tremendous amounts of money and then they have huge amounts of debt years later because they're not living in a financial reality.
Mm. Mm. What's in a person who feels that they don't deserve to make a lot of money, so therefore they sometimes never make enough money? I mean, because is it that they just don't feel that they deserve, a salary that's going to really take care of them, or or is it like a family curse where like generation after generation it's been a financial struggle? I mean, and for many, definitely systemic racism plays a huge part in it. um, how do you break that, because it is in the spirit, it is in the emotions, and many of us mistake money for our worth, our value.
Absolutely, well said. And you're absolutely right that systemic racism and sexism and marginalization, the LGBTQIA plus population experiences marginalization. So any group that is discriminated against experiences financial trauma. And you brought up intergenerational trauma. So when your ancestors have been through traumas like the Holocaust or slavery or genocide, that impacts families, I can't even say it, on a mind, body, spirit level. So traumatic events we cannot process like usual life experiences, and they have a deep and lasting impact on our psyches and our bodies. And what we don't kind of heal in our own lifetime gets passed on to the next generation. So families who've been through tremendous trauma, horrific experiences like that, there are belief systems and after effects that repeat generation after generation. And then many of us may have experienced other kinds of financial traumas, things like unemployment or a failed business, or losing money through a divorce or a breakup, or a short sale or a foreclosure of your home, all having an accident or an injury or an illness where you're disabled and you're not able to care for yourself in the way that you normally are able to. Those are financial traumas, and they have mental health implications. The research is showing that a quarter of adults and 33% of millennials deal with financial trauma on a level that meets the criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder. And that was pre-pandemic. And the pandemic added fuel to the fire. We're in a mental health and financial health crisis. So my book really provides step-by-step tools and exercises to help people honor their financial traumas and practice self-compassion, and understand that their emotions and their belief systems about money have maybe been impacted by their families of origin. And many of us were taught, maybe in our faiths and our religious or cultural teachings, that money is bad and wanting more money is selfish or greedy. Or maybe we internalized messages that somehow we're not enough and we're never going to be able to earn more than a certain amount because we weren't born with more. And so in narrative therapy, they say that we have to become not only the protagonist of our own life story, but the author. So it's about empowering yourself to rewrite those belief systems and change your thinking about money. In therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the most empirically supported kinds of therapy. And it says that our thoughts precede our emotions and our behaviors. So I realized early on in my career that I had self-limiting beliefs. I met with one of my colleagues when I was starting my private practice, and he said, "Hey, Joyce, how much money do you want to make?" And I said, "Well, gosh, I'd really love to make $60,000 a year." And he said, 60? Gross. I want to make more than 100. And I said, "Well, do you think that that's possible?" And he said, "Of course that's possible." And that year I made 60 and Steve made over 100. And I thought, am I setting my own ceilings? And I think we do that. We think small. And so I talk about cultivating abundant thinking, where you start to expand possibilities and write a greater narrative for yourself.
Mm, mm. So you have to visualize that dollar amount that you believe is what you need, what you want, and you have
You
to
have to,
believe that you deserve it. Number one.
yes, you have to know that you deserve it. We are all innately deserving. And you have to visualize it. It's like sport psychology. The more that you visualize yourself making the goal, the more you increase the likelihood that you will. So I have exercises in my book from Adlerian psychology called acting as if. So for example, when my book was rejected by publishers for 10 years, I started to walk around my house and say, "I am an international author and speaker, and I am like Brene Brown, my hero." And my best friend accused me of psychotic optimism, but you know what? It worked, because now I have the publisher that Brene Brown has. So that never would have happened if I didn't kind of try that on and start to tell myself that I could do it and to persevere and not give up and keep trying. So we have to coach ourselves through so that we can be resilient and keep putting ourselves out there and expanding our comfort zone.
Mm. Now, yeah, for many, money, some people do believe the more money you make, you had to have done something evil to even achieve masses amounts of money. Like you had to pull some stunts, you had to, many people like really believe that in their core. So therefore, um, they never aspire to make more money because they were taught that rich people they've done some
Oh.
evil things to get that money. Mm.
And of course, there are wealthy people who have earned money in, you know, not ethical ways
Mm.
and harmful ways. And so that is a reality, but the way that I look at it is when we have more, we can help more. And there's an expression in the yogic tradition of doing no harm. So if you're earning your money in a way that does no harm to the people who work with you or for you, your vendors, your clients, if it's a universal win-win-win and you're doing your business with compassion and ethics and in a way that is legally sound and compassionate, then you're going to succeed. And the more that you have, the more that you can help. So for example, when I set up my business Urban Balance, I wanted to be able to earn more money when I wasn't directly seeing clients, so that when I was home with my children on the evenings and the weekends, I could have some passive income. And so I made it a win-win by accepting insurance and making therapy affordable and affordable and accessible for folks. And then also made it a win for the therapist because I was providing the office space and the billing services and the referrals and offering them part-time flexible work. So I was benefiting as the owner, My staff was benefiting from their jobs, which many of them loved and stayed for years and are still working for Urban Balance. And then the clients benefited because they got great therapy in a way that they could afford. So people can cultivate wealth by doing business in an ethical and compassionate way. I started my business with $500 and $50,000 of student loans. I put a $50,000 loan on my house. I had horrible, crippling financial anxiety. I had insomnia and panic attacks during '08, during the last housing market crash and during the recession. And it was then that I learned to practice the tools that I use in my counseling to help change my financial life. And 3 years ago, I was able to sell Urban Balance for more money than I thought I would make in an entire lifetime. So it works. I want to share with people what I've learned from my clients, my amazing, wise clients, and from my own entrepreneurial journey so that people can welcome a life of mental wellness and work-life balance, supported relationships, and financial prosperity.
Mhm. Now, you and I, we've had some deep conversations over the past couple years, and you had brought something to my attention, and I'm known for this. Whatever I have, I give. Whether I can afford to give or not, if I feel someone is in need, I just give, because I truly believe like God will take care of me. I'll be all right. But this person needs this right now.
Mhm.
So you knew of a particular employer. I won't say who it was. He was he was more a client. I was a contractor for him. Uh, he was a narcissist. He was just, I saw good in him, but he was brutal to a lot of people who were there to support him. And I so just really felt like he needed someone like you. He needed Joyce Marter to come and talk to him and help him with his office, his staff, so he could see his ways. And he was very successful, very, very successful. Uh, but I felt he could be so much more if he just had some compassion and was dealing with whatever demons were inside of him. And so I was going to pay for you to come and help him and all his staff. And you were like, you absolutely will not.
Yes.
No, you will not. No, if he wants this service, he should pay for it. And you had me thinking like I've been this way all my life, and it has been to my detriment. It really has. It really has. So you were the first person to stop me and say, I will not accept the money. No, he's going to pay for it, not you.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, Malika. And we all learn our roles in relationships from our families of origin, and you always see the good in people, and you have a compassionate heart, and you want to help and be of service, and you do so much mission-led work in your career, and you're an advocate, and you help people, and that's who you are and how you are. And that there's so much about that that's beautiful and amazing. But we also need to be aware of our financial boundaries. And sometimes when we're caretakers or we're compassionate or empathic, we tend to take responsibility for others, including financially. So, and that can lead to poor financial boundaries. So in relationships, sometimes people have loved ones that they might be enabling financially. So right now, a lot of people have grown kids that have moved home, and maybe they're supporting them because they're unemployed or things like that. And then they're not able to retire because they're supporting their grown children. So we need to learn how to set healthy financial boundaries in our relationships. And that doesn't mean that we don't care or that we're not being of service. We just want to be of service to people in a way that is not harmful to ourselves. And I love that you talk about your faith. And I do believe in the spirituality of money, and that when we align our gifts with a need in the world, that there's spirituality to business in that way and leadership in that way. And I believe that when we do work for the greater good, there is a financial reward. And so knowing that that's possible and available to you. I'm also in a profession as a therapist. My first day of graduate school, the professor said, well, you certainly didn't come into this field for the money. And I thought, uh-oh, I just signed a lot of student loans. So how the heck am I going to pay them back? And the starting salary for a therapist in 1996 was $18,000 a year. So I was pretty concerned about how I was going to support myself. And so we can be mission driven and also value ourselves and earn money. And I found when I was earning more money, I was able to then offer more pro bono counseling and sliding fee counseling and have student interns who could provide free services and be of greater help in the world.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's uh, it. From that incident, that situation, I have learned to draw the boundaries. I've learned to draw the boundaries, and it is hard. So how we really feel about money and ourselves, our own self, it is ingrained. You'd be surprised. And I think if more people spoke about how they dealt their money, like so many would be embarrassed, like, yeah, I have no boundaries. I have no boundaries. Or some people, the boundaries are so thick, like they don't help anybody. They just hoard the money. What about those people?
Right. So I'm
Mine
glad.
are hoarders. Like I'm not giving a dime to nobody.
Yes, there's a happy balance for sure. I always say that love is the real currency of life, and that is how we exchange energy in the world, and that's the real value. But people who hoard have a scarcity mindset. And the pandemic fueled a scarcity mindset for people. Think about the toilet paper incident. So there's the scarcity mindset is that we have to compete for resources because there's not enough for everyone. And so we focus on lack and we get competitive and hoard it because we don't trust that it's going to become available in the future. And it was that scarcity mindset. We actually caused that problem because people were bringing, 40 rolls of toilet paper to their homes, and then the stores didn't have enough for everybody. So an abundance mindset, excuse me, on the other hand, is where you believe that there are enough resources for everybody. And you focus on collaboration and you look at possibilities rather than, like in my practice, I hear a lot of times people say, that's not possible. That's never going to happen for me. That's not going to work. And that becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. And so we need to, again, rewrite that script, flip that script and that narrative so that we can cultivate a more abundant life.
Mm, interesting. 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 So there's so much going through my mind right now. So much is going through my mind right now. But I do want to open it up. If anyone has any questions, um, if anyone out there has any questions, let me know because I will monopolize this conversation most definitely.
My camera's off from working right now.
Arnett,
How are you guys?
good, good. Speak up just a
I'm,
little bit.
I'm enjoying the program.
Oh,
I'm not
great.
giving it, but I am working on some pictures for us, but that's where my camera's off. My camera's off. I like the segments that you put financial boundaries in relationships. That's so important. But how you value yourself, how you value money. Not doing that just from just talking. If you don't really value yourself, you're not gonna value your money. But that ties into that as well. She's some spiritual principles uh, with the gifting and all that stuff. I'm enjoying it. I'm linking it to scripture, so I am. This is good so far. I'll just chime out. I won't take up too much time, but I'm enjoying it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnett. And yet with the setting healthy financial boundaries, I was talking before about healthy self-esteem being midway between diva and doormat, and guys can be divas too. So it's all of us can do that. And the divas are not respectful of other people's financial boundaries. So that's like, the people that you were describing that maybe are employers that are not good to their workers or things like that. And then the doormat is not respectful of their own financial boundaries. And in the middle, we show respect both ways. And so we communicate in a way that shows that we value ourselves. Dr. Phil said, we teach people how to treat us. And he also said, the most you get is what you ask for. And so we need to learn how to negotiate. We need to learn how to communicate in our financial relationships. And negotiation can happen anywhere. So, I think that, for example, even just going to a store and saying to the salesperson, is that the best you can do for me? I started working on that, and I gave it, baby steps, just trying to develop this muscle. And I said that when buying some patio furniture, I said, is there anything else that you can do for me? And the manager threw in free shipping and $500 covers that I was going to buy anyway. So that saved me an enormous amount of money. And all it took was asking. I had another situation where I was invited to do my first out-of-state speaking engagement, and I really didn't know what to charge. And so I asked my friend Ross, who is a renowned speaker and author, and he's farther along than I am. And I said, Ross, what do you charge for out-of-state speaking? And he gave me his rate, and I was really uncomfortable with it. I was like, whoa, that's a lot more than I've ever charged, certainly. But I borrowed Ross's self-esteem and I told the company that amount, and they said, great, no problem. Where do we send the check? And I called Ross back and I said, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm making that amount for a 45-minute keynote. And he said, a 45-minute keynote? I gave you my full day rate. Isn't that funny? So
you pushed it high. That's right. That's okay. That's all right.
Yes.
That's an important lesson, right? We have to ask for more.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's a great story. You won't know unless you ask, right? You won't know.
It's true. And by asking for more, then there's times where, say, a not-for-profit asks me to speak and I'm able to do it for free because my bills are covered from the people who can afford it. So, it works out, it balances out. So I believe that when you have the income coming in, then you can do the work that maybe your heart and soul wants you to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
About some, this last one coming, I'm going to be busy for a few months, but just like the NFL players, they don't cry about how much they make. You shouldn't, because when they're finished, they're done physically. Once your time is done, it's done. So you shouldn't be embarrassed by how much you charge.
Right, that's true. And part of what I talk about in my book is cultivating both mental resilience and financial resilience. And as a country, most of us don't have financial resilience. We don't have, I think something like 70% of people don't even have $1,000 cash available to them in the event of an emergency. And most people haven't saved properly for retirement. And so money is a resource to take care of ourselves. When I first was working on my money problems, I talked to my therapist about my relationship with money. And she said, well, Joyce, what does money mean to you? What do you think of when I say the word money? And I said, oh, I think of stress. And she said, well, no wonder you make it go away. So I had to shift my belief system. So then I thought, okay, money is a resource to take care of myself and my loved ones and be of service to the world around me. So when I changed that, then I think about financial planning as taking care of myself and my loved ones and the world around me in my future. And so many of us, we live in this consumer-based, materialistic culture where we want instant gratification and we're bombarded with media and advertising. And so many of us have spending issues and we overspend, we accrue debt. I used to have so much debt all over the place, business, personal, everywhere you could imagine. And it was so anxiety provoking. And to be able to, Malika, you mentioned this, that we carry a lot of shame around our finances and people don't talk about it openly. And we compare our insides to other people's outsides. We think, oh my gosh, Malika always looks great. And I saw her out to dinner and she's on TV and she's doing great. And why am I not doing so great? When, we all have our stuff, and it's just like mental health. We imagine that we're the only one dealing with depression or anxiety or stress or relationship problems, when I believe we all do at different points in our lives. So if we can be transparent and open and ask for help and support and talk about our financial struggles and become financially literate by empowering ourselves to get education, to attend workshops, to listen to podcasts, read articles. I just wrote an article for Money Geek, which has a lot of really cool articles that you can learn more about financial health and how to improve it. So by doing all of that, you're planning for your future and working on letting go of that shame and stigma and taking care of your financial health.
Mm, mm. Oh, Joyce, it is always, I love talking to you. I love talking to you. I always learn something new. And this really hits home because after COVID, I think everybody was impacted
Oh, yes.
for an entire year, weren't sure of anything, like what was happening. I know Evanston Live TV, it was definitely, in fact, I couldn't go out and film video, cover anything. Everything was shut down. It was rough. It was a little scary. So some had to get more creative, like Zoom became my best friend.
Yes.
Zoom became my best friend, got more into social media. But some people weren't so lucky. They, their doors closed and, it was a very strange time. So people's spiritual state and how they handle money emotionally, what did you see coming out of this past year with COVID? I mean, I think that spoke to how people really deal money. You either became serious hustler and worked your butt off to stay above, or, you let go and you just gave up. It was a rough year. It was a rough year.
Very rough year, very traumatic for many people and enormously stressful emotionally and financially. And there's huge connection between mental health and financial health. When we have financial stress and financial problems, that can cause depression and anxiety and trauma symptoms. And when our mental health isn't good, then it can be hard to do the things that we need to do to make more money and take care of our financial health. So they're really interrelated. And you're absolutely right. We've been living through a mental health and financial health crisis. So I have been speaking for companies and organizations around the country with even employees around the globe. And people are experiencing tremendous financial anxiety. And so I think just, some of the things that you want to do are to know that you're not alone. I know that I've had clients who, this is so difficult, even had suicidal ideation because of their financial fears. And the research is showing that sort of those deaths of despair, people who think that, they're not going to be able to take care of themselves in the future. So they are thinking about suicide, that's on an increase. We're at a 30-year all-time high for suicide, and 16% of suicides are financially related. And that is so tragic because, our financial situation can be temporary. It can shift, it can get better, and support and help is available. And again, when we can practice self-compassion and honor what we've been through and remove any self-blame or judgment, and remove blame of maybe our past, our parents or past relationships, or even blaming the economy or the government. I mean, we have had so much craziness politically and everything, and it's easy to kind of go there. But instead, we want to put our energy, I mean, obviously, we want to be political advocates, and I appreciate all the work that you do in the world, Malika. Thank you so much for all the advocacy that you do in our community. But we have to empower ourselves to take the reins of our financial life and to know that more is possible. We have to develop, when I went through my financial crisis where I really thought I was going to have to file bankruptcy, I had to practice a lot of healthy detachment, which is a mindfulness strategy of basically taking all that yuck and shame and imagining putting it in a container and setting it aside and clearing my energy, taking care of myself, my health and wellness, practicing meditation and taking care of my nutrition and exercise, and then doing the next right thing each day, one step further. And I had to practice a lot of humility. I had to tell my employees that I messed up, and I needed help. We were in cash flow hell. The bigger we got, the more money was outstanding in insurance. And I was having difficulty paying my rent and my staff. And you know what? Once I started being open about that, help came out of the woodwork. My staff was happy to help. My friends, my family had suggestions. I had a neighbor say to me, Joyce, it sounds like you need a business valuation. I had no idea what that was. And he introduced me to a CPA who I met with, and I handed over my QuickBooks file, and I was in tears. And he said, Joyce, you truly have a cash flow problem and your business model actually works, and I can help you. And he confronted me, Malika, in many of the same ways that I confronted you. He said, Joyce, you're not running a charity to employ therapists, and you deserve to make a profit. So that was helpful. And I think I felt guilty about earning money. And so I gave it all away. I took care of my kids. I took care of my family. I took care of my employees, and I accrued a lot of debt in the process. And so I had to shift to caring about myself. And I always say that I refer to my relationship with my old financial self. If she were a person, her name would have been Penny, and I neglected her. I was ashamed of her. I didn't talk about her with anyone. I abused her because I expected her to pay out a lot more than I put into her. And now I call my financial life prosperity. And she's a reflection of my own self-worth. And I take a lot of care of her because I know that she's part of my vitality and my mental wellness and part of what allows me to be of service to others. And so I talk to my financial planner. And even though I have had this enormous blessing of being able to sell my business and receive money, you're right. People often blow it, right? I met with financial advisors who were like, don't make the footballer mistake and don't blow it all, in the first year. And so I have to meet with my financial advisors regularly, and they're like, Joyce, what's your spending? What's going on here? And they keep me in check. And we all need those people in our lives to help keep us in that healthy middle ground.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to name my characters. I'm gonna give them names. I'm gonna give them names. The one that just wants to give every dime away and like, oh, God will take care of me. I got to give her a name because I got to get her in check. Get her in check. and name my prosperity Malika. I got to name her. I got to figure out a name for that one. But you had said something too, and I was just having this conversation with a couple people actually. Uh, when you see those rich men at the thought of the IRS or someone coming and just taking everything that they've made, taking all their assets, all their money, and they would rather die, jump off a cliff, a bridge. They would rather die than be broke. What explain that to, because you know, if I was to win the lottery tomorrow, millions of dollars, and I lost it, I would be pissed. Yeah, I would be upset at myself, but I knew I would be okay because I've, you know, make it above water. I'm still good. I still have joy in my heart. I'm happy. So what about those people, just the thought of being, not having any money, just, they would rather just be 6 feet under. Like, what is that?
That is identification with ego. So that is when you are placing your worth on your money, and that's your value in the world. And that is, you're right, it can be taken away at any moment for any of us. And so we cannot place our worth on what we have. Our worth is internal, and you have a deep spiritual foundation, is my sense. And so you having that, that's, instead of ego, which is our mind's identity of ourselves, there's our soul's identity, which is our essence, our spirit. And when you identify with your soul and your spirit and your heart, money doesn't really matter. But it's when you're identifying with all of that and thinking that's your value. Our money is how we are, it's not who we are. And so we need to define our worth by who we are on a deeper level, about our character and how we treat others. And so there's another thought that I had about that, and I'm kind of forgetting what it was, but I would say that that's about ego. And, oh, I know what it was. Susie Orman, the financial advisor who's a best-selling author of, I think, like 20 books on financial planning, she said she noticed that self-worth leads to net worth, but net worth does not lead to self-worth. So people who have a lot of money aren't necessarily happy, and they don't necessarily feel good about themselves. But when you do that inner work, and for me, that's, a psycho-spiritual process of being in therapy, working on your spiritual self, having a community that you are growing and learning and developing as a human being, that then you're going to start putting yourself out in the world in a different way that's going to welcome more money and more opportunities, as long as you're not pushing it away. So that part of you that's always wanting to give away it's a beautiful intention, but if you give everything away, you can't take care of yourself. It's like the oxygen mask analogy. We really have to take care of ourselves first before assisting others, or we're going to be exhausted and depleted. And the world needs you, Malika. You do incredible service. So everyone needs you to be healthy and well, and financially prosperous. So we each have to do that work.
That's interesting. So it's two different beasts. So you have the ego that's, they rather die if they lose all their money. And then you have those who just give away every dime and just, they're like, well, I'll be fine. But really, no, you need money. So you do need money. It is almost like oxygen. So it's like two different animals, extreme.
Yes. And so finding that balance where we have a nice, healthy flow of spending and saving. Money is a resource. It's meant to be spent, and spending is healthy for the economy. It's, we can have experiences and enjoy events and take care of loved ones. So we don't need to hoard it. We can share it. but there needs to be balance so that you have financial resilience, so that in the event of, your computer breaks, you lose your job, you have unexpected hospital bills, that you're,
COVID-19 hits.
yes, exactly.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
You have to have a cushion. So, and most of us don't, but we need to start caring enough about ourselves to make that happen.
So it comes down to caring about yourself and definitely having your ego in check. And your self-worth is not determined by your assets, your money. Money is to be used and to just take care of yourself. And that's it.
Yeah. So my book, each chapter is a different mindset that I've identified through seeing literally thousands of clients at this point over 25 years. It's a lot of data. And I've worked with clients from all walks of life. And I've seen these 12 mindsets lead to holistic success. So they include some of the things that we talked about today, having an abundance mindset, about practicing healthy detachment, cultivating resilience, having compassion and kindness and empathy in the way that you conduct yourself in the world, accessing support. We're interdependent as human beings. So we need to not only give support, but we need to receive support. And then I talk a lot about presence, which is kind of a concept from mindfulness, about being conscious and being aware in the present moment and applying mindfulness to finance. So, and there's another chapter on self-love and how to cultivate really taking much better care of yourself. We have to learn how to not be our worst critic, but to be our own good parent. And your good parent would want you to have savings and take good care of yourself. And you want to be your own best friend and your own compassionate advocate. So my book really teaches how to do that.
Mm. Thank you so much, Joyce. And please let everyone know where they can get your book. I know you can get it on Amazon, but let them know where they can get more information. And I'll be sure to put it in the description as well.
Thank you so much, Malika. If you go to financialmindsetfix.com, that's a page of my website that has links to Amazon and indie books and other online retailers. And it is available for pre-order. It'll be out in bookstores on July 27th. I'm super excited. It's going to be published in Spain and Korea too. So how cool is that? And I did an audio book. So if you prefer that, that's coming out a month later.
Yes, yes. I'm an audio person, so I will get the audio. So, but I feel like I've been getting, tips from you for the past couple of years.
I
You,
love it.
yeah, you were like, you need boundaries, Malika, boundaries.
I love our relationship and friendship, and I love your mom, Fran Joy. I'm just super glad that you both have come into my life. You've been an enormous blessing. And I believe in a spiritual web of people and that we met each other for a reason. And I hope that together we can help more people. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, again, my name's Joyce Marter, Marter, and my website is joycemarter.com. Happy to answer any questions or be of service any way I can.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Joyce. Thank you. Thank you. And we have to have you back and like do a book discussion.
Wouldn't it be fun? A little book club?
Yes, yes, we should do that. We should do that because I think so many people need this conversation. And like you said, there's a lot of shame around money, and some people don't want to talk about, what's going on, their situation. But if you don't ask, you need that support, someone to give you that information to help you get through it. So yeah, we gotta have a book club conversation about it when it comes out, maybe in August. I know you'll probably be on a tour, but yeah, whenever you can come back, that would be great.
I would love that. Thank you so much. And I might have some local book signings. I think at the Barnes and Noble in Skokie and some other bookstores in the city. So I'll keep you posted on that as well.
Yes, keep us posted. Keep us posted. All right. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all those who joined us tonight. This will play back on Facebook. You can also catch it on YouTube. And if I end right now, you can catch it on Instagram as well, because it has to be under an hour. And we kept Joyce longer than we were supposed to, but it was a great conversation. So you
I
all
talked.
you all be sure to share this. I know it's a lot of people out there that need this information about money and the spirit and their emotional state and how that all impacts their finances. I mean, everyone can relate to it on some level, from one extreme to the other, the ego to needing boundaries to everything in between. So be sure to share this, and we're going to bring her back. So you all stay tuned right here, Evanston Live TV. More to come. Oh.